It's lit. How y'all doing? We need 100 people to tune in at least. At least 100 people need to be in for this one. So this is going to be a good conversation. And I'm looking for dialogue. I'm looking for people who've actually seen the movie to give me their critiques, their opinions. And all of that. We need 100 people. We need 100 people. Boycott Harriet. I'm trying to figure out. We're going to have this full discussion. As most of you know, yesterday, Until Freedom was the host of the movie Harriet yesterday. We went to the movie theater on 125th Street, the Magic Johnson Theater, and we all went to see the Harriet. Most of us went because there were conflicting reviews. And there were people who were saying that they were boycotting it, that the film had a white savior, it whitewashed Harriet Tubman's story, that it made a white man look like a superhero and the black man look like a villain. And so, me being a critical thinker, someone who makes his own decisions, not someone who goes on what social media tells me, but what I see for myself, we decided that we were going to go and see the movie and then give a proper review based on knowledge, not what you were told, not what you think, not emotional, just based on the movie. Prior to the movie coming out, there were issues about the lead actress's statements that she made about African Americans. And those statements were definitely things that we needed to talk about, that people wanted to address, that they weren't comfortable with. And I agreed, with the statements that she made. That pretty much called black Americans lazy because she is from London. And I believe she's from London, or British. She's British, I believe. The UK. She's from the UK. And she made statements that pretty much had called black Americans lazy and ghetto to a certain degree. And those statements were very harsh. They needed to be addressed. They still need to be addressed. I think we need to have a conversation with her, see if her perspective has changed, see where her perspective comes from, and try to educate her. And try to sit down with her, see if there's room for growth, see if there can be some accountability for what she said, and try to move on from there. And if not, then we can move on to our cancel culture as we have adopted lately. But the film itself. So yesterday when I went and seen the film, I went there prepared to see this film that was whitewashed, that white supremacy had took over, the legacy of a strong black woman who went down in history as one of the first women to free slaves, who has freed over 70 slaves on her own, who had joined the army and helped them free over 750 slaves. I went there to see, prepared to see the whitewashing of this woman's legacy. And I'm here to tell you that didn't happen. That did not happen. Watching this movie, I was empowered. I was motivated. It put me in a space, made me feel as if I wasn't doing enough, made me feel like I needed to do more as a man. It put me in a whole nother space. And I watched for this, this villainizing of the black man. There was definitely one sellout black man in the movie. And but that is common. That's not something that we haven't heard throughout history. That Harriet had to pull guns on certain individuals and threaten their lives. Now if you're boycotting it because of Comcast, if that's something that you're boycotting Comcast, if you're making a conscious statement that Comcast has funded this movie, therefore I don't want to support it, then that's something I support. If you're making the statement saying with the statements that she said, I'm not able to move past what she said about the African Americans, and you feel like because of that you do not want to see the movie, that's something I support. But if you're one of these people that's saying that Harriet Tubman's legacy was whitewashed and the white man was the savior and the black man was the villain, that is a lie. The black bounty hunter was something that we've heard of. This is not like we've heard of. If you look at throughout history, blacks were sold by other slaves. Blacks were sold by other blacks. Blacks were sold out by other blacks. We see that shit every day in our communities. So it's not a far-fetched story. The bounty hunter, the bounty hunter was the only sellout in this movie. Knowingly there was a bunch of other people that sold out, but in this movie there was one black sellout. But the character existed in the movie. This was not the autobiography of Harriet Tubman. This was not a documentary of Harriet Tubman. They didn't. In movies, they create people for a storyline. They create characters for a storyline. This was a movie. And if you're looking for something to gravitate for, something to be negative, then that is something that you will hold on to. But I will tell you that the people in that movie theater were moved to action. The people in that movie theater were moved to say that we have to be better for ourselves, that we have to do more. The people in that movie theater wanted to be more like Harriet Tubman. This was the first film that I seen where a black woman was a superhero. She wasn't a supporting cast. She wasn't helping somebody else. She was the strongest person in this film, the whole film. There was nobody who saved her. There was no time that she was weak and some man came to her aid and made her strong and had to protect her. This was the first time that I can remember that I watched a black woman play a lead role about one of our historic figures that was a woman, and she was a superhero, all on her own. If you tell me another film, I'm not being disingenuous. If you haven't seen the film, please do not tell me. Please do not tell me. If your issue is with Comcast, I agree with you. Don't go see the film. But if that's not what your issue, if you're not boycotting Comcast, if you have issues with what she said and you can't move past that, I respect it. But for someone to say that this film itself, which was directed by a black woman, written by a black woman, somehow whitewashed Harriet Tubman's legacy, that is not true. That is a lie. That was not true. The villain of this movie was the slave owner, who was the son of her original slave owner. This man was probably the most evil person I've ever seen. This man had absolutely no conscience. They grew up together. He treated her, called her a pig and a piglet, told her that, yeah, we grew up together, and she was pretty much like his pet. This is what happened. I'm definitely speaking on Comcast in the case that Byron's fighting. I was on a conference call the other day with Byron and several other leaders about this issue, and we will be putting out something very shortly to educate everybody about what Comcast is doing. Yes, Comcast is doing something very critical right now that could roll back the Civil Rights Act. What they're trying to do is saying that they have the right to discriminate. They're trying to make it law to have the right to discriminate, which will roll back the Civil Rights Act, which will affect not only black people, but all minorities in this country. And they actually utilized a law called the Huntley. If you look up the Huntley case, it was about some LGBTQ individuals who wanted to be involved in a parade that they were excluded from, so they sued. And the judge said that they were that it was okay for them to be discriminated against. That if the people who were doing the parade didn't want them in it, they had no right to participate. And Comcast tried to utilize that same case to fight against our rights to be able to own to have stations in Comcast. They utilized that law. I think that in itself was so disrespectful, that you would utilize a law that gives you the right to discriminate against people. I think the fact that we actually going to the Supreme Court, if you haven't heard, on November 13th, well, we need allies. Triple Trey. Unfortunately, we need allies. You know, I want you to understand that in this moment, the more allies and people know that, hey, yeah, because people think if it's just you, they don't got to fight. There are people in power that don't look like me and you. I'm both. Artists are teachers. You know, so we need allies. A white historian gave the movie makers advice about the movie. I mean, I think everybody should give advice. I think if we look at slavery, if we look at the time that Harriet Tubman was there, I think that if we don't have historians, I mean, white people were present. White people were slave owners. They were white abolitionists at that time that fought against slavery. You know, they were white slave owners. So to not have a perspective, an educated perspective from all perspectives, but what you as a black person get to have the ultimate say about how your history is depicted. You know, I think that's what an educated person does. An educated person studies all history, and they come up with a conclusion that most likely happened. You know, if you know when they say if until the I forgot what it is. It's a thing. Until as long as the hunter, until the lion tells his story, the hunter will always be the victor.
Victor.
Yeah, the victor. So, you know, the bottom line is somebody giving you, you know, you look into other historians about what happened in history, whether white, green, or black, you know, and people they're educated, and they took the time to educate themselves, and you can look up their facts, and you know, you can either dispute them or agree with them. I mean, that's what educated people do. That's why you have dialogue. That's why you engage with other people. You learn from people. People teach you things that you didn't know yesterday. We all learning. But the bottom line is, when you look at this film, Harriet, when you watch this film, Harriet, it depicts a black woman as a superhero. Not a sidekick, not somebody that supported somebody, and not somebody. This woman was a superhero. She traveled to her own freedom while she was having dizzy spells, 100 miles to freedom, and went back for her family and freed slaves, constantly freed slaves. You know, so if the information that we have been given about this film, not about what the actress said, not about Comcast, if those are issues, once again, if those are issues that you have, you know, then we're going to start boycotting a lot of films. You know, we're going to have to start boycotting a lot of films. If we're going into Comcast supporting films and being donated, you know, on funding films, we're going to start boycotting a lot of films. You know? So I want us, but was helped by the cracker. Come on, bro. You know better, bro. What do you mean? I don't understand what you mean it was helped by a cracker. If you show me a production, a major production, that wasn't helped by the cracker, then you show me that. I want to hear that. Show me that film. Oh, hell no. The Gucci situation was Gucci itself put out a line of clothing that was directly a civil rights violation. They demeaned what slavery was, blackface. They demeaned who we are. A historical reference to something that demoralized us. The movie, I don't believe that movie flopped. But this movie is not like whatever movie you think this is like, it ain't that. I'm promising you that. It's not a slavery movie. It is a black liberation movie. You never get an answer about what? You're black before blue, brother. Please don't forget that, because the Democrat support don't mean you should defend. It hurts to see how consistently you attack. Yeah, we get. This ain't got nothing to do with no motherfucking Democrat. What does Democrat got to do with this? Let me tell you. I vote for my people. Jumaane Williams, who's the public advocate of New York City, is a black man, and he's a Democrat. And I voted for him yesterday. You know why I voted for Jumaane Williams? Because I was on the front line with Jumaane Williams. I've watched Jumaane Williams sacrifice his freedom, put his family, everything on the line for us. I've watched Jumaane Williams do that. I've never sat back next to a Republican anywhere to where they fought for something that I believed in. I don't know any Republicans that come from my community that speak to what's going on in my community, that speak for my community. I don't know any of those people. The Republican Party is a party of old white people. It's 90+% white people. The Republican Party has 3 blacks in it, 2 actually right now. Why would I ever believe that a white man knows what's better for me than I do? Than people that come from Michael Blake, a Democrat, somebody that I pretty much went to school with, seeing him grow, who is on the council at the convention, the Black Caucus, who is one of the council members in the state. So when you talk about the Democrats and I don't have no allegiance to a party. I have allegiance to people who do the work. People that I can touch, that I see in my communities, that I know have what's going on, who a pulse on my community. That's what I know. What do you mean no one's civil suits have succeeded? I don't understand what you mean. All right, so name one. I just want you to name a Republican that's been successful for the liberation of black people. I mean, but my thing is, if they all puppets, right? Just think about it. If they are all puppets, I would rather vote for the puppets that I know, that I'm cool with, that I can get in their ear and say, yo, you know what's going on? You know what's going on in the hood, right? Your grandmother still live over here, man. We need you to come over here. If all of them are puppets, I could not run as a Republican and win. I would not get the support from the Republican Party. You know why? Because it's not made up of people like me. I don't come from that community. I'm not in those rooms. When you look at the Republicans and you look at when they go and have conversations, they're the rooms majority of white people. When you look at Candace Owens and she's talking at the Republican Party, it's a room full of white people and probably 2 or 3 black people. Why would I ever make a decision that white people who not from my community know more about what's going on in my community and what's good for my community than black people that actually come from it? Why would I ever say that? I want you to get that. You have 3 Republicans that are black. Why would I ever, being a black man from the Bronx, from marginalized communities, why would I ever in my life say I'm going to vote for a party that is majority white people that don't come from where I come from to make decisions about what goes on in my community? Why would I ever do that? Like, I just want to know, why would I ever do that? Okay? Now back to the movie. The movie was empowering. I ask you to do this. If you don't want to see the movie based on Comcast, if you understand what's going on with Comcast and you're boycotting Comcast, I appreciate that and I respect it. If you don't want to see the movie because the statements that Cynthia made were some statements that I agree were harsh, that demeaned black Americans, African Americans, and you decided that you can't move past those statements, I can respect that. But if you're not going to see this movie because you were told that it whitewashes Harriet Tubman's legacy, that it's not accurate, and that it's not, first of all, it is not a documentary. It is a film based on historical references, with historical references of Harriet Tubman. There's not a documentary. It is not supposed to be completely true to the complete history of Harriet Tubman. It is a film. But the film empowers a black woman. It shows a black woman in the highest state of superheroism. It shows her how her energy, how spirituality, how her will, something that when I watched Harriet Tubman, I thought about my grandmother. Like my grandmother is probably the strongest person that I've ever known in my life. And watching Harriet Tubman made me reflect about the strength and energy that my grandmother had. That's what I'm saying for me. I don't know about this. I don't know about what y'all got going on. Movies like The Matrix, Terminator is number 1. I don't know what the fuck the Terminator is, and Arnold Schwarzenegger killed black people when he was he was over there. What was he, the mayor or the governor in LA? He executed Tookie, so you want to talk about, we can talk. He executed Tookie, who in prison was nominated for Nobel Peace Prizes. Who, yes, he did some heinous things, but to execute a man who at this point in his life was changing the lives, who had the pulse of the community, who was once one of the most feared gangsters, who went to prison and transformed the minds of gang members, who was transforming what the gang was about, who was educating them and unifying and saving children's lives. For him to kill that man, and then you still go watch The Terminator, but say that you're not going to watch Harriet Tubman because a black woman said some things that you didn't like about African Americans in America because that's what she was taught. See, anti-blackness is not just white people or other people. It's within black people. There are black people who've been taught anti-blackness. There are Africans who live in Africa who've been taught that African Americans are the worst people in the world. They've been taught that. Anti-blackness doesn't just come from other races. It's within ours, and we've been taught it. So it is our job to retrain our own people, to educate our own people. So when you see this film and understand that the significance that it has to the legacy of a black woman, what it's going to teach young black girls, how it's going to inspire them, and if we don't pull her in and say, hey, do you understand where those statements that you said hurt us? Do you understand how they damage our unity? How they were used by the media to continue to divide us? Do you understand that? You have to understand that now, understanding what Harriet Tubman meant to the legacy of black people, black African Americans in America. You have to, the way that she played that role, listen to it, what I'm telling you. There was no other woman who could have played that role. Listen to what I'm telling you. Tookie was responsible for many deaths in the black community. He was definitely. But he evolved into something that was transforming lives. And I think that's what his punishment should have been. To kill him when he had the ability to transform a community, how do you benefit?
How do you explain it to the families?
How do you benefit that? Everyone has a family. I'll get it. If you're saying, listen, I understand the families lost loved ones, but now this man is able to do something good that can save somebody's lives. So if you just want to revenge kill someone, if that's what your goal is, to revenge kill, then bringing someone to law, it's just like somebody's working for free in prison. You're getting free labor back for somebody. You're taking that free labor. That's the debt that they're paying society. So if a man is in prison, transforming lives and educating youth about mistakes he made, because he has a level of notoriety based on negativity, and he transforms that. And his punishment is to spend the rest of his life changing a dynamic, changing a community, changing a mind state. If we don't see that right there is more valuable than you taking a life and someone just feeling like they were revenge, because you taking his life doesn't bring back the lives of the families that were lost. There are a bunch of people whose families have been lost, and their killers is sitting in jail for the rest of his life, but he's not being executed. So it's not written into law that everyone who takes a life is executed. No. The bottom line is this. If you did not see the film, I would say that you do. Unless you boycotted Comcast. Unless the statements that Cynthia made are too much for you to move past. But do not, I repeat, do not allow anyone to tell you that this film whitewashes the legacy of Harriet Tubman. This film put Harriet Tubman, that I don't agree. I think that it's a film. It is not a documentary. It is not supposed to be true to the facts of everything that happened. I think that the film itself gives you an overall depiction of a black superhero who risked her life, who utilized her spirituality, who utilized energy and strength that I've watched my grandmother utilize her whole life. to save slaves. This is what I think. Now, you don't have to agree with me. When the white dude kills the black dude, that translates as she would not have moved on to be great. A white dude made it possible for that to be that. No, when the white dude killed the black dude, it's because he himself wanted to torture her. And he told the black dude, who was a fucking sellout, not to kill her. And when she shot at him, he said, "I'm gonna kill you." And he was like, "No, you ain't gonna kill her, because I'm a killer. I'm gonna torture her. I'm gonna bring her back. We gonna fucking punish her. We gonna do everything possible to her." It was not that he was saving her life because he wanted her to go on and be great. That's not true. So when you make when you say that to me, no, he didn't save her life. He did not save her life because he was trying. The black man wanted to kill you, but I saved you so you could go on and be great. No, he saved her because he thought he had the opportunity to kill her. That's what it was. That's what it was. He killed that black man like they've done throughout history. They've killed black people. And he wanted to torture her. That white man in that movie is probably one of the most evil people that I probably ever heard. The way he spoke of her as if she was property, as if she was a pig that eventually that he would kill, that a pet, that eventually you die or kill you. He never, at no point did he ever. We got coons right now that sell us out every day for a couple dollars. They do it every day. He didn't get to kill her. He would, because he didn't want to kill her. He wanted to bring her back alive, and torture her. He wanted to torture her. He wanted to be the person that brought her back and got the reward and tortured her in front of the world. Because to him, she was his property and he was supposed to do. This was white supremacy at the peak of its existence. It was the entitlement. She said, "I don't understand how a little sickly white boy thinks he owns me." But this was not a documentary, sir. It wasn't supposed to be all the way 100%. Nobody knows what happened. I'm not tap dancing. I'm just trying to tell you the truth. He was not her savior. I wish I was. You listen to me. Whoever got a check for me, please send it to me, because ain't nobody paying me until freedom has just been launched. He'd make it as hot as a puppy, do everything he said to do. And I hate shit like that. And we gotta live with that shit. We don't motherfucking puppies. I never let a white boy any race talk to me like that. You probably wouldn't. But who want to come in here, man? Because I want to have a discussion with somebody. Who's seen the film and wants to have a real discussion about it? I'm gonna tune right back in. I'm ending it so I can save this.